Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Fresh Finds Podcast, the show about discovering new music with good people. I'm Ryan, and joining me this episode is Jake, the artist behind the Alt-Pop project, The Merrier. How are you doing, man?
I am doing great. I'm very excited to be doing this with you.
Yeah, because you've actually been watching or listening to the show for a little while, right?
Yeah, I started, I was probably back in 2021, like towards the end, I think. Yeah. Well, it's just great that I game and I do a lot of editing for stuff. So it's great having a wealth of podcasts. And,
yeah, for sure.
The pandemic spawned that. So
and that was how I think that at one point you just messaged me just hey, this is a super cool thing that you're doing. And that was when I started to check out your music and we kind of, became mutuals on social media, that kind of thing. So do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, tell people about who you are, what you do, the kind of music that you make, that sort of thing?
Sure. So I'm Jake. I do a thing called the Merrier, and it derived just from wanting to work with different artists and just kind of focus on writing songs and less about playing live and being a real band. So very Gorillaz-esque, having a different guest on every single song and switching up the instrumentations for who works on what, and just having a revolving door of people and genres going on.
Yeah, because you'll do vocals on some songs and then not others, and you'll do production on certain things, and you've worked with other more electronic producers and stuff like that as well, right?
Yeah, I don't sing, but everything else, yes. I don't have a good singing voice. And we were just talking, I'm not even a person that projects my voice much. So, but no, yeah, I'll work with different producers. There's a guy named Tristan Wells. He's done a lot of stuff with me, especially the early stuff. And every guest kind of self-produces themselves too. They record it. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they'll send me tracks dry and wet, so they'll have their vocals with effects and stuff. So essentially, I'm always working with a different producer. If it's not the guest, then they have someone. So there's a lot of different variations and layers to it.
So what can you tell us about this new project that you got coming out? I believe by the time this is coming out, it should be this month, right?
Yeah. I don't even remember when the single comes out. The first week of April comes out the first week of April, and then the EP, If We Fall Asleep Too Soon, comes out April 28th.
All right. And what can you tell us about, just working on that project, the kinds of things that you're pulling on for, inspiration with that, who you've worked with?
So I worked with a ton of cool bands. I worked with, I want to go in order because it's fun kind of going back and thinking about how it developed. And I think the first song that I really had done and ready was with Hey, I Love You. Then it went Exciting Excellent. I got Exciting Excellent on 2 songs.
Okay.
Then Super Destroyer, Equipment, and Analog Heart. So I got we got a lot going on here with video game, soundtrack music, whatever Hey, I Love You is at this point. Analog Heart, just having that super electronic computer vibe, which was perfect.
Yeah, because you've got that vocoder thing on that track.
Yeah,
right?
and that's their staple. Analog Heart is sweet, and maybe I should play one of their songs today. But then Equipment, which is just fantastic emo, a band I've been listening to for a really long time now, it feels like. Mm-hmm. So it was a really fun EP to work on, and everyone was really cool. We didn't have any issues or run into any problems. We just kind of did it and
That's cool.
Went back and forth with adjust this, do that, and in a year and some months we were done.
Is it one song that's currently out right now, or do you have 2 of them?
So yeah, Wow Relief is out. That's with Exciting Excellent and Super Destroyer. That one was just supposed to be for a Halloween split that Lonely Ghost does, but I really liked it, and I asked them if I could just put it on the EP too, and they're like, yeah, of course. Cool. Lonely Ghost is super cool like that.
I was gonna say we're probably seeing at least one of your picks. We're probably gonna end up talking about Lonely Ghost a bit later, but I would imagine. But I also find it really interesting listening through the EP. I feel like you have a very unique guitar sound, just the riffs that you tend to write have just this very interesting kind of angular sound to them. I'm just curious if that's where that comes from.
I can show you real quick. I've actually got the guitar right over there.
Oh shit!
And it normally, if it was, I'll show you. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
So I got this Gibson hollow body from the 60s that I use on everything, and it's this really like acoustic hollow body kind of sound. And I think that's kind of where it comes from, because it's very like when you have the raw file, it has a very middle ground tone between electric and like acoustic.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll even layer like a mic on it to get more of that acoustic feel out of it even more.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
And then I just like put a ton of effects on it.
But like even just your playing, I feel like there's like like, do you use like alternate tunings or something? There's just like some sort of like the way that your riffs turn out feels very unique and very fresh, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm using one of the standard emo tunings, FAC, the popular emo tuning. I don't even remember what it is. I've been in it. I've been like in that tuning with that guitar for over a year. So
don't even play in standard anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I still play bass in standard when I do the tracks. So it keeps me grounded to like what I'm playing in that way. But I'm not big into like theory. I'm more of like a live sound technician that does this for fun.
That does music on the side. Yeah.
So that's kind of where a lot of like my mixing too is more, I spend a lot more time mixing live, I guess I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes my mixes come off a little, maybe just like loud in that kind of way.
Well, a little bit less quote unquote nuanced.
Yeah.
Just kind of, yeah. I mean, that makes sense because typically like live mixes are more about getting things heard and less about like really sculpting things.
Yeah,
which I suppose makes sense.
It definitely depends on like the show, but for the most part, it's it's about you have an hour to sound check, and then it's an hour long, hour and a half show. You know, so like
you don't have a whole lot of time to dial stuff in. You just want to get it there as quickly as you can.
It's definitely cruder.
Yeah, there was something else I was gonna say, but I did not remember what it was.
Well, you know, that's why I love this podcast, because there's so much production talk, and it really helps. It's one of those things that helps me kind of like relax, because there's so many different ways to look at it all, and like you can just get lost in the conversation because like it's so subjective.
That's one of the things that I've always kind of worried has maybe made this less accessible for a lot of people, is that there is so much production talk, and so we'll use a lot of, you know, we'll talk about sidechain or, you know, whatever, and I'm like, should I like put a note on screen as to like what that is so that people actually understand? Like,
well, you know, when I hear, like, because there's been times where you guys have talked about things and I don't totally understand, so I've usually looked it up, and that's kind of like prompted me to like do some digging deeper. I just mixed, I also just woke up, so
yeah, it's all good. Well, all right, cool. I think that this has been a good chat about this. Is there anything else that you want to specifically say about this before we move on to kind of the meat of the rest of the episode here? No,
just listen to all the guests. I've got a playlist on my Twitter. It's a bunch of bands, so just listen to the guests.
Okay. Well, moving on, like we said, you're already familiar with the format of the podcast. I'll go first with my first pick, and then we'll go back and forth, which gives you the closer. So my first song is, you were speaking of your playlist with all of your collaborators and everything there. I actually found out about this artist because of one of my playlists that's not specifically a Fresh Finds podcast playlist, but it's kind of, you know, adjacent. There was some sort of video that somebody made where they took the analytics from the Spotify Wrapped from last year, and they cross-reference that with the amount of money that the average artist makes per stream and the average length of a song, and did the math to figure out how much music you would have to listen to on a daily basis for you to cost Spotify more money in paying out artists than you pay for your monthly subscription to Spotify Premium.
Wow.
And it turns out that it's around 6 hours of music a day, which is like extremely attainable.
Yeah, it honestly is.
And so what I decided to do was to make a Spotify playlist of independent up-and-coming artists that was at least 6 hours long. It's closer to like 8 now. And I made a video on TikTok about like, you know, here's what I did. If you want to check out the playlist, here's a link to it. And then I was like, if anybody wants to be added to the playlist or knows an artist that they want to be added to the playlist, leave a comment and I'll check it out. And then I'll, you know, throw my favorite songs from that artist onto the playlist. And this artist, Paul Childers, who is based out of Nashville, commented on the post and was like, "Hey, check out my music. If you like it, put it on the playlist." And he has some really, really cool funk music.
Yeah, okay.
And this song is called Love Again.